Yeah.
What up, y'all? It's Torres, Rap Latte.
And I'm King Green. These are deeper conversations about hip hop, and we got the company man back again. What's up, Justin?
Word up. Thanks for having me, fellas.
All happening.
So let me give y'all this. Let me break this down for y'all and ask y'all a question. This video is called Revenge Fantasy because I believe that this is Drake and his fan base's attempt to pull some Quentin Tarantino shit, like Inglourious Basterds, Django. These are revenge fantasies where you rewrite history. Drake and his camp is trying to rewrite the history of this battle. And the reason I have an issue with this is mainly because there's a lot of people talking like he's sticking up for artists. Me personally, why I have an issue, guys, my album with my band is on the same album that same label that Drake is on. He's not sticking up for me. Nothing about this defamation case is going to help me out. He's not sticking up for artists.
You're talking about what the lawsuit is all about. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm saying
the lawsuit is him making some grand stand against waste, fraud, and abuse in the industry, when in fact he's doing nothing of the sort. The lawsuit doesn't even address contracts or unpaid money or any of the many contractual abuses that we know are normal. And it's about defamation. It has nothing to do with creating a better industry.
And I just want to make sure we are regurgitating this point because, especially you was OVO Toure yesterday. People was mad at you.
You was over mad. I was not. You can take it to Justin. Justin, what is the true beginning of the battle?
Control.
And Drake's response to Control.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about when it went live, then, and especially according to yesterday's document, they referenced first-person shooter for when that Cold War went hot. But Drake and J. Cole had a problem with Control. And Drake felt like they couldn't be friends because Kendrick wanted to have competitive competition in hip-hop. Mm-hmm. And he never did it well. And this is what it's led to.
But so from Control, how do we get from Control to really, how do we get from Control to like that?
You have Control. Drake goes on a press run for Nothing Was the Same. He throws shade at Kendrick on Crown with Elliott Wilson. He throws shade at Kendrick again in a conversation with Angie Martinez. He throws sub Kendrick on Nothing Was the Same. And Kendrick says he tucked a sensitive rapper in his pajama clothes during the BET Cypher. And it's been on from there.
Yes.
That's who provoked the battle? The word provoked.
Yeah. Who provoked the battle?
The guy who had a problem with competition in hip hop. The same guy now is going to burn everything all the way down if he's not on top. It's the same impulse. It's the same reflex.
Exactly.
You think so? You agree that first person shooter provoked the battle
to go live? I think that if you look at the video, particularly for first person shooter, one, you've got him and J. Cole doing all the two-man sports. It's they're really the top two guys.
Yep.
Like it's playing chess, they're playing ping pong, they're just going back and forth because it's between them and Cole. Now you have the reference that Cole makes to the big three in there, but I think that's the icing on the cake.
Yep. I feel like Kenny has been mad at him for being a horrible person in general for many years and for not understanding Control and many other things that we may never know about. And he's been waiting for an opportunity to punch this nigga in the face. And he's been basically lying in wait for years about the right opportunity to get at Drake. And Drake, I feel like Drake inadvertently woke up the bear rather than threw a shot at him and Kendrick was like, oh no, we can't have that on response. You know what I mean?
Inadvertently woke up the bear? That is so incorrect. The first person shooter is a song. I'm regurgitating things from the last video, but we're going to make it very simple. I did a song that I asked you to be on to say that we're the three greatest. Then we go on there and basically say, nah, it's just me and this guy. You know that this song was supposed to have you on it. That is a shot. And then I respond, hey, you know how you said there was 3 of us? Fuck all that shit. It's just me.
No, I get that.
That's all that happened.
But here's the thing. If this was a normal rap battle, I'm a better rapper than you, 100% that. But when you get to meet the Grams and not like us, you're a pedophile, you're a horrible father, you're a horrible person. I wish you were never born. You'd belong in prison. That's beyond. That's not first-person shooter. You're not talking about first-person shooter. You want to murder me? That's not first-person shooter. Go ahead, Joe.
You're doing what Drake's defamation lawsuit does, right? You're looking at this in a vacuum, right? You know, there are 10 tracks between first-person shooter. And
you know what I'm saying?
And the first time we hear Drake, he is talking about Kendrick's wife. The second time we hear Drake, he is assuming the AI persona of Pac and Snoop, taunting Kendrick, and mentions that he likes young girls. So, and he mentions that he's a Canadian light skin, right? That is the table that Drake set. Because like that, he just said, I'm the best rapper.
That's all
Drake
he said.
Comes out and Drake comes right after that and says, I'll be with bodyguards like Whitney, and then has Tupac say, fuck this Canadian light skin dot. We need an undebated West Coast history. Talk about him liking young girls as a gift for me. Well, those are the 3 things that people have a problem with, right? They think that going the PDF route was too far. They think that Kendrick questioned Drake's blackness. And they think that Kendrick othered the entire country of Canada. Well, all of those things came from Drake first. That is the table that is set. Kendrick gave him grace, John, grace.
It's good when I got extra help.
Fuck you, nigga.
Somebody told Drake it's a good idea to mention slaves again, and how he abuses them. And then you get Meet the Grams, and you're asking, oh, this is beyond just who's the best rapper. Well, Drake shouldn't have set that table.
That's where it's at. Drake set the table, and just because it got to that space, you're talking about somebody who would take it to that space because he was like, I'm going to win this. So Kendrick is of that cloth where it's like, nigga, I'm going to do whatever it takes to take you out of here. Like, that's period. So, and it got there, but he said it could be a friendly fade. Are you saying, which I might agree with, that Kendrick maybe wanted it not to be a friendly fade? That's probably true. That's probably true. But he clearly listened to people for a decade and never stepped out there with when people actually told him, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. He listened because he's like, nobody said anything. It's not that crazy. So maybe let me just do sub for sub. That was 10 years of sub for sub. He takes it as a sub. He takes it as a direct shot when you put my name in a verse and then said that you two were the best. So I'm going to go on a song that's really hot and say, hey, you two that think that you're the best, you're not even in my space. It's just me. So that's not even that big of a deal. You shouldn't even take that serious. You should just respond to that. But no, he didn't just respond to that. He had to up the ante. And if you up the ante, I'm going to up the. That's battling. We saw this all happen. It's all happening. It's all happening, man. It's all happening. But I just wanted to make that statement about the revenge fantasy, and that I could see that people are actually taking this. When I seen people talk about this whole thing, and obviously I did a poll. Everybody, 84% of people say Drake is wrong. UMG is not wrong. But I do think they're both wrong in the sense of like what Drake's camp is saying about UMG and being a predatory conglomerate. That's true, but it's always been true. So this case right here has nothing to do with it, but it is true.
I have a challenge with people saying that people who think Drake should lose are standing up for a corporation, because Drake is a corporation too. I look at this as 2 corporations going against each other. He's damn near a billionaire. If you start a company right now that was worth $1 billion, you could go public. This is 2 corporations having a problem. Drake is not Robin Hood out here. He's a business that is disappointed and making an argument that he was defamed and devalued. That is the definition of a corporate lawsuit. This is
Straight up corporate. Two corporations fighting each other.
And then if you take away from the fact that, he's face forward or whatever, Drake is one of the most corporate guys ever. He has Rap a Lot, Cash Money, Young Money, Republic, Universal, Nike, Sprite, Steak, Happy Dad, you name it. He is the epitome of the walking corporation. This is two corporations.
Two corporations. Someone said in the chat, McDonald's the rapper. That's exactly who he is.
Sure. He's Target, for sure.
Yeah. Right. So many SKUs. So many SKUs. Which is fine. That's I never had problem with the SKU music. SKU music's all right. You do your SKU music and get it.
It's for the marketplace. You just shouldn't be out here talking about nobody's wives and snitching on yourself. Too easy things to do.
This has always been what he's been. And the thing that triggers me is when people say, oh, he's the greatest or one of the greatest. When he was just existing as a SKU rapper, I'm like, fine, go get your money. I don't care. But when people of his generation started to try to codify him, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Now we're ruining the standards of the generation, of the art form, by saying he's the greatest. That can't be correct.
I mean, I put it this way, right? One, we're in a super fan focused environment for a long time. Everyone has direct access and control of the audience. So I expect people who are fans of anybody to advocate for them. I think all three of us have examples of people who are fans of our content that advocate for us everywhere they go. I don't necessarily look at that as wrong. I think the volume of the audience, the size of the audience is what seems to skew the conversation, perhaps. But at the same time, we have been very far away from the idea that the best rapper didn't have to sell the most records. We are 10 years before Drake even shows up before that idea gets challenged, when that idea first gets challenged. From everyone from 50 Cent to Diddy, from whoever. This idea that the guy who makes the best records is the guy who sells the most records is a huge part of that conversation. So I understand where it comes from. I don't necessarily blame Drake solely, but the fact that his hits have been what has supported that narrative almost exclusively, and you look past the fact that he can't tell a story that he's not in. You look past the fact that from a style standpoint, he is pretty limited, pretty narrow in his styles. You look past the point where he can't talk about things that affect other people, social issues, larger trending topics, things that are happening outside of, his relationship. You look past all that simply because he has hits. That's when I feel like I am listening to an uneducated population explain to me what the greatest rapper is. And that's why I feel like journalistically or culturally, as a cultural representative, we have to put things in the proper context. And the proper context is Drake sold a whole lot of records and started talking too much while he was doing people dirty in the background. And this is what happens.
Well, one of the context also to what you're saying is that someone like Drake, a large portion of his fan base is non-hip hop, let's say. Doesn't matter what race they are. He has a lot of fans who don't really care about hip hop like that. And when we talk about who are the greatest rappers, I think people who care about hip hop should have a vote. Doesn't have to all be rappers, although I am more interested in what a group of rappers would say than a group of civilians. But I am of no interest in what people who barely care about hip hop or dip a toe into hip hop occasionally is one of the things that they kind of like. I don't care what you think of who is the greatest rapper. I care about heads, people who live for this shit, who study this shit, who care about this shit, whether they're practitioners or not. I care about them. So Drake's numbers skew the conversation because he's got millions of people who don't really give a shit about hip hop, who check for him, who like his shit. And he may be the only rapper they care about, or him and Eminem. So I don't even want to, none of those people get a vote in this conversation to me.
I agree with that.
Right. 100%. That's our responsibility. That's our responsibility to put things in proper context. Now, a lot of people have a whole lot of problem with that. They have a whole lot of problem when you have, people who are, more versed or educated on the topic, putting things in context, minimizing their goats and their favorites. It's not something people are going to swallow, but that's part of the job, and that's part of, in my opinion, it's part of what makes it fun.
We got to get Justin to weigh in on the subject of the week, which we started with Anthony yesterday. I keep asking this question. Green will be like, "Why you keep asking this question, nigga? The conversation's over." I don't think it's over.
Oh God, what are you about to ask?
I mean,
there's so many questions you just keep asking.
Justin, who do you think most people who care about hip hop think is the best rapper of all time?
Right now.
No. I asked the question the right way. Who is the person who most people in hip hop think is the greatest rapper of all time?
I mean, I think there's a handful of people that most people would consider in that box. You know, I think Jay-Z is one of those people. I think Nas is someone who is championed despite all the accolades that this newer generation gives to a lot of people. I hear people still say Rakim because of the innovation around it. And I'm now hearing a lot of people say Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, which is basically what I said.
That and Pac is, those are the names that we keep going back and forth with.
And Kendrick was not there before. And he's the first one to actually be in that space in a long time.
Yes, Kendrick is the first new name in that space in a long time. A lot of people apparently have suddenly decided over the last 6 months, at some point, 12 months, that he's number one of all time. I think that's a reasonable argument. For me, it's been Jay-Z for like 20 years, and I haven't really even looked hard at the argument. Kendrick's the first one that made me have to look at the math again and see, is his math still right? I don't know. I think some of the millennials are underselling Jay's career.
Kendrick's got a better catalog than Jay-Z's. And here's what I mean by that. Right. Now, he doesn't have as many projects, but he hasn't missed. He has not missed on an album.
He hasn't missed. No Magna Carta. No Kingdom Come. No Best of Both Worlds.
Kendrick has 3 solo number ones.
Crazy.
3 solo number ones. That's away from the one with Taylor Swift or whatever. He has 3 number ones this year. This year. He has a Pulitzer Prize. Pulitzer Prize. He put on at the lowest level the memorable Super Bowl performance. The most memorable.
Who has a better voice?
Kendrick.
Wait, say it one more time.
He said, "Who has a better voice?"
Who has a better voice?
Kendrick got 5 voices. Which voice you like?
Kendrick. Jay-Z used to have. People used to make a mockery. No, people. No, he doesn't. Jay-Z has one voice.
Melody and writing his voice.
No, Jay-Z has one voice. We have a super chat. Let's get the super chat real quick, and I'm going to go in on that Jay-Z Kendrick conversation because somebody asked for this too. Peace, fellas. An important piece that no one is talking about is Drake literally put money in the streets for info on Dot. We've talked about this a bunch of times. Almost causing some drama between black and Mexican gangs. Living in SoCal, I understand how reckless that was. Yes, that's after the fact, though, from the part that we're talking. And plus, that's like some street stuff, right? So the street component of that and having like the whole thing about the street thing, I want to say this, is that Drake's playing on both sides, right? And it seems like he's always has, where it's like there's something going on at a street level and there's something going on at a corporate level, and looking at both of them, it's almost like two different people, and they don't really match up. So there's a lot of things about these conspiracies or alleged things that happen that when we're talking about the battle, we can't really incorporate because we're just talking about the words and the art of it. But that's something that we've talked about a couple times specifically, especially when talking about whacked out murals. So I just wanted to say that. But
who's got a better flow?
Kendrick's got 27 different flows. Pick one.
You think Kendrick flows better than Jay-Z? Wow.
I think Kendrick has so many flows that you can pick one.
Wow.
Do you like his rigor mortis flow? Maybe you like his peekaboo flow. Maybe, maybe you're a math flow kind of guy. You know what? Y'all might be the flow that you like. Do you like
Jay-Z
it in
hasn't done
95
that
flow?
for you? Jay-Z
I don't know
didn't
if
do that for you?
I think stylistically and didactically, Kendrick is over there with like Eminem, Andre 3000. It's a different type of approach to tracks in terms of different varying ways to approach it. And
just more versatile.
artist,
Kendrick's more versatile than Jay-Z. Like you don't have to even. That's like objective statement. That's not like a thought. Like you can't actually make a case for Jay-Z being more versatile than Kendrick. That would be ridiculous. So.
You mean in terms of the way that he uses his voice and the sort of songs that he's able to create?
Yeah, pick something in any category, and I could say that he's more versatile. So if you want to say flow-wise, there's more versatility there. Voices, there's more versatility there. The type of songwriting, there's more versatility. There's not versatility doesn't. You being more versatile doesn't make you better, but I'm just saying. In this case, he is that good. He's at the top echelon. Plus, he's more versatile. So that's where he can edge Jay-Z on a lot of topics and categories. And if I do another chat, you know what it's gonna say. You know this chat is poll.
If you do another poll,
I'll do another poll because there's more people. Maybe there's some new people that'll help you out in this. But
they don't have to help me out. They can say whatever they want. I'm in search of the truth and what people feel.
We'll put that in the as a poll, but then we can move on to. There was a Justin video you wanted to talk about like rapping and
You did something that I thought was really smart, and the way you talked about it was great. You had a video about how a painting teacher told you, if you want to learn about painting, you should paint. So you said, okay, I'm going to write rhymes to learn more about rapping. Conceded, I'm not going to be good at it, but it doesn't matter. I'll still get insight into the science of writing rhymes. Talk about that experiment and some of the things you learned about emceeing.
Yeah, so the video was about Ian, right? So the video that he's talking about, for everybody who hadn't watched it, it was about Ian's response to Tyler, the Creator. And Ian is a white dude who looks like Scoop, but sounds like Future, right? And so Tyler called him out. And so Ian finally responded, and he responded over a lyrical lemonade, but it was a lunchtime freestyle series. And he was rapping over a non-Future beat, and it sounded even worse than he normally does. And so he looked like he was not prepared to rap over that beat because, generally speaking, he doesn't touch anything like that at all. And so in the commentary, I was describing what I saw based on my experience, which was when I lived in Amsterdam, I took an art history class, and the professor said, if you like art history, you should take a painting class. That way you understand perspective like Vermeer or perspective like Rembrandt, motion like Vermeer, whatever. And so that inspired me to start writing rhymes, but also, to try graffiti, to start trying to break dance, all the elements, right? I spent time with all the elements. I got a helicopter that never gets off the ground. I probably got the worst tag ever. But writing rhymes was the easiest to do most often. And so when I was on the subway every day, I'd write rhymes and I record tracks with my cousin and stuff. And through the whole process was, again, like Torre said, to get closer to this thing that I love so much. Because while I can study it, I can research it, I can understand the historical context with things, I was not a practitioner. I had no idea what it was like to actually sit down and write a verse. I'd never had an experience of trying to write a cipher rhyme or to try to tell a story or to try to have a political conversation or to bar somebody down or to try to do a third person story. And one of the things that I pointed out with the Ian video was that I was watching that and I was like, oh, I understand what's happening here. Here is someone who doesn't have experience trying to rhyme over different beats, different flows that he's not used to, who is clearly outside of experimental element and still trying to squeeze in his previous style into something that just doesn't work over there, right? I have that experience too. I know what it feels like when I have like this crazy beginning to a new track, to a new verse or something, and there's fire in my head. And then at the end of it, it just turns into money, clothes, weed, bitches, hoes. Just very that I was.
That's interesting that even when the MC tries
Somebody
to
close
start
bitches.
with something outside of their purview, something special, something different, something grabby, and then you said you start by the middle of the verse, you've fallen back to your true north of who you really are or what you really think you're supposed to talk about.
Right. For me, that ended up happening when either the thought wasn't all the way fleshed out. Because I understand the draft process too. Right. Sometimes you're like, okay, I like this part. I don't like the rest of this. You go, 5 weeks later writing rhymes and recording tracks, and you're like, oh, this part's actually pretty good. It might actually fill out this other thought. And then you have like a song that comes together that's been written in parts and pieces over a period of time. But the hardest part for me was to put myself in someone else's shoes and rap from someone else's perspective, which is why if you look at all my favorite rappers, all the rappers I think are the greatest, they're amazing at capturing feelings of other people, even if it doesn't directly apply to them. Because for me, it was really challenging to talk about things that didn't directly apply to me, but I felt like were important or I wanted to talk about.
There's a part of you being empathic that needs to be there.
Wait, Green, when we talked about the other notion, you laughed about you try to do something at the beginning and then you fall back into your normal purview by the middle of the verse. Why did you laugh?
Because we call that a crutch. It's the same thing like in freestyling. You call it a crutch in freestyling, like where, like my crutch is I'm coming through. Even Harry Mack's crutches sometimes he uses that, where you're like, you say something, you freestyling, and I'm wilding, I come through with the childish flow, and and I'm nihilish, whatever. You're just saying that so you can start thinking and get to that. And when you're writing a rap and you're writing a whole song, and someone can't, like, I give you a topic, and then you can't come in here and talk about that topic, it's because maybe that concept or topic's not in your purview, as you like to say, or it's not, or you're not empathic, so you don't even feel for this whole thing that I'm talking about. Or maybe you have a whole nother agenda, like when people battle somebody on your track, when you're just you made a whole song about something else, and then somebody come on your verse and it's like, nah, I gotta come at this person. Even like that could be thought that way. It's like, okay, so this nigga's going at Drake on this song. That could have been that. So that happens so many times, and you can see the level of writing with the writer, songwriter, or artist and how they create their stuff. Some people are just free form, like expressionists. It's like, I just express myself and whatever comes out, comes out. You know what I'm saying? It's like they can't really think about a narrative and then place that story together. And that's why I appreciate what Justin said so much, because writing a story is the hardest thing to do in the world.
Why? Why is that the hardest thing?
Because you being, just like you, we were talking earlier, telling a story just in person, me telling you a story is hard to do. People are not captivating storytellers, right? So now you have to be a captivating storyteller and bar it up and be rhythmically on point. All those things. That's why storytelling rappers do so well. And that's why there's so few of them, right? Like we could name probably only 25, like, really narrative writers. You know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes someone might try to make a narration. I mean, what story did Future tell? I'm not trying to throw any shots at Future, because Future's great. But what story did Future tell? He doesn't do that. He's more of an expressionist. He's like, I'm going to express myself. I'm just going to throw the paint up in here. You know what I do? I draw suns, moons, stars. That's what I do. Starry night every single time, but it's going to be fire. Whereas some other people are going to be able to give you different things. Like sometimes it's going to look like a Rembrandt. Sometimes it's going to look like Jean-Michel Basquiat, right? I love bringing in art into my conversations. but yeah, it's just the hardest thing to do. And that's why Lupe doesn't get enough credit from me. This nigga could rap about anything from anyone's perspective because he has the empathic ability and the knowledge to be able to express that. And he will rap like it's that person. You know what I'm saying? That hip hop saved my life and kick push, that's not him. But it sounds like we all thought he was the greatest skater in the world. That's not him. That was some kids. He was like, yo, I'm going to write this from this perspective. It's just, Lupe needs his credit because he can do a lot. And same thing with Doom. Reason why I like Doom so much, this nigga created so many characters and a character himself for you to understand and he's rhyming from different perspectives. Like him being the villain and not the villain. Like, Doom's crazy.
Justin, what else you learned about... What else did you learn about MCing from that?
This comment was, what story did Jay ever tell selling work to his mama? Meet the Parents.
What story did Jay-Z ever tell?
Jay-Z's told many stories.
That's what
Jay-Z told a story on his first album.
They were talking about a story that wasn't about Jay-Z, right? But this one is, Meet the Parents is one that comes to mind. But the thing that's so difficult about writing stories is story writing is difficult in general. Like in general, like if you tried to write a story on an Instagram post, it's a struggle. You know, if you're trying to just tell a story that's impactful, that's cohesive in any medium, it's not the same as just talking, right? And so for me, because like writing a story in song is like writing a 16-bar Broadway play. It's not easy.
Very, very, very much that.
I think part of telling a story is subtracting from the experience that you had. So you only tell the things that matter to get to the conclusion. And the listener should expect everything that I'm being told is driving toward the conclusion. So if you hear something that's out of, why did he say we got on the highway? That's important. That will matter later. But if it doesn't matter, then you're wasting their time and the listener stops listening. So you had an experience, you have to erase the things that don't drive to tell the story. And that's hard for people because I have to see, what do you need to know? I know what I know. I know the whole thing. What do you need to know? So how much can I pull out of what actually happened to communicate to you A, B, C? And you go, oh my God. And the subtraction is hard for a lot of people, right? How little do I have to tell you for you to understand the story? That's hard.
Right. And the thing through that process that I went through, one, that process directly connected to me deciding I wanted to write about rap music, right? It was that process that allowed me, because I started sending emails at work to my friends called Lupe Fiasco, Daily Quotable, right? So I was at work, I worked at investment, and I'd be like, every day I get to work and I'd email my friends about a Lupe Fiasco story and or something he said in the track. And one of my friends was like, you should start a blog. And she like took my emails and put them on Blogspot. And that's really how I started writing in the first place, or at least about rap music in the first place. But the thing that I learned through that process was it gave me a deeper insight to what I was hearing, even from particularly the wackest rappers, or who I considered to be the wackest rappers. Like the respect I had, I considered to be a whack rapper, went through the roof. You know, like in my years of times, right? I had one verse that I felt like if I was in a cipher with, if I was in a cipher with Jay-Z, you know, Redman, Ludacris, Busta Rhymes, Memphis Bleak, as long as I was after Memphis Bleak, I felt like I had one rhyme that could hang. And it took years to even get to that level. Oh, I think this verse right here can get Memphis Bleak. You know what I mean? It's the
you think you got? I love that. I got a verse for Memphis Bleak.
Made me understand what I was hearing at a different level, and then truly appreciate not even just the gods in the space, but the people who have been able to create careers in this space, who have been able to develop an audience at all.
There's so much that goes into it.
With greater respect for the quote unquote whack rapper, what do you think is the difference between the whack rapper, and we should have another term for it in this conversation, versus the more successful rapper? Because if we were talking about, sports, you'd be like, well, this one is more mentally tough than that one. But that's not really the situation in hip hop. So what is the difference?
Imagination.
You agree with that, Green?
Imagination blends into creativity, but I think there's a technical skill that you have to build up. There's a technical skill that any rapper can build up, and then the imagination is what takes it, like the creativity, imagination of your artistry. What I think that's how I'd like to define it, is the innate thing that the individual has. So so if you relate it to sports, it's like your God-given talent. like in your God-given build, like your voice is something just like LeBron's 6'9", 5,000 pounds or whatever like that. That's that's who he is, right? And then he has gifts like you have like or Michael Jordan's hands being able to grip the ball so he could control the ball differently in the air than other players. That's the gifts. But the work ethic that you can put into your skill sets, like being able to do internal rhymes and all that type of stuff, you could work on that and actually get better at those things. You could get even better maybe at flow, but that's also some God-given talent. So I think the imagination part is and creativity is what I like to say, is very important to put you beyond someone else. Like what I'm gonna put on a map. Go ahead.
I separate creativity from imagination. Right.
I hear what you're saying, but I think they're just. I was using that word for what I think you're talking about. But go ahead and define it. Go ahead and define it. Yeah. That was funny as shit. But go ahead and define it. All right.
Word up. There it is. Because here's the thing. Right? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Right. Especially since the question was asked to me, what I think the difference is. Right. And so the technical skill part of it is the thing that, everyone can get more proficient at. Right. There's a natural gifts that'll take you over the top. You could take as many jump shots in the world. If there's an extra je ne sais quoi to Steph Curry making all these jump shots. Right. Perhaps it's watching his father in the NBA. Perhaps it's whatever. Right. But you can become a great jump shooter. Right. You can be as creative as you need to be. Right. You can be around other creatives that help you present your work in a more creative fashion. Right. Whether that's beat selection or whether that's how you want to tell the story or whatever. But for me personally, right, we'll use Tory's example since we're comparing Jay-Z to Kendrick Lamar or that became part of the conversation earlier. To me, Kendrick's imagination, the risk he's willing to take, the way he can see different angles on how to approach a track, the way he can make himself proficient in other styles, enough other styles to where they all kind of come together to create a different kind of style, and then place whatever conversation he wants on top of it. It takes a level of imagination to see certain angles and to see certain ways that are way past proficiency and in a different context than I would say with creativity, right? Because you can be really creative and less proficient and still not have imagination, in my opinion, right?
Well, define creativity and imagination in these terms for me to kind of
I didn't say, I'm not.
No, I'm saying
define it. I define imagination. You tell me. Because I ain't talking about that.
He said, "Well, that's why I just said creativity because what you said to me would be creative. It's like that's for me, so that's why whatever words I feel like they're the same thing as far as like if I look at a track.
I will say this: imagination is another level of creativity, right?
Okay, cool.
There is creativity, and then imagination is otherworldly thinking over there, right? Because because it takes imagination in art in general, right?
Sure.
Someone who can. You mentioned Starry Night, right? Someone who could paint stars in the way that who did that? What's his name?
Monet.
Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah, Van Gogh.
Yeah.
You imagine that is what the sky looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Is uniquely through his lens. You know what I mean? And so,
I see what you're
to me,
saying.
that's imagination.
You're going back to what you said earlier that you were saying that
imagination is to see it that way.
Being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a incredibly important thing, you said. And that's what you're talking about with imagination, that somebody who's more imaginative, more thoughtful, could imagine a song based in somebody else's perspective versus somebody who can really only talk about themselves.
Right. I mean, like Lupe Fiasco is a great example that Green was talking about earlier, right? Lupe does multiple versions that I think are just some of the most imaginative presentations that I've ever seen. But Daydreaming, he won a Grammy for, right? At that point in time, to me, that was the most complicated Grammy-winning song ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That song is about a project building that turns into a robot. And I look at that as one of the most imaginative songs ever, because anybody in the history of hip hop could have made that song. Anybody in the history of the genre, period, could have made that song, because project buildings are older than hip hop and robots are older than hip hop. Anybody could have made that song, right? But we don't get that song until Lupe Fiasco, because his imagination was just in a whole nother place.
Right? 3,000%.
And he's really imaginative, and I'll say this quick point, but then he's really imaginative in how he, in his metaphors, for example, or his similes in his metaphors, right? He called it simple complexity. He'll say stuff like, you can be harder than sign language with no fingers. Right? Like, how do you even do that? Is it just a fist drawn in the air? I don't even know what that looks like. I can't even imagine what sign language with no fingers looks like. Right? I can't even imagine it. Like, I don't even know how you would create it. Right? So then, or he'll say stuff like, can't see me like B.I.G. on CMT. Right? Well, you ain't music television. I don't care how many Shabuzi songs are #1 on the charts. You're not going to see Biggie on country music television. Right? So there is grand scheme imagination with Lupe when it comes to ideas and stories that you just haven't seen. But there's also really minute, super simple yet extremely complex freshness to his similes and his metaphors, right? It's just a totally different.
I think one thing that's critical for an MC is to be able to communicate a strong sense of who you are and where you are from, to where another MC could not say your rhymes, because I'm talking about my block, my experiences. I can visualize your car, the weed you smoke, and that wouldn't even work on the other side of your area, much less in another city. And that goes beyond, I think, the traditional technical skills into your ability to communicate who you are and a coherent vision of who you are. And that's not just in the rhymes, it's in the slang, it's in the tone, it's in the clothes, it's in the sounds, it's in the references, it's in all these different things. So isn't that a big part of the difference between who's great and who's just meh?
Well, I think that, one, obviously, I think those things are extremely important, right? But I never discount the fact that we're talking about art, right? And so people are going to have things that are more higher priority to them than other people, right? You listen to MF Doom. My favorite Doom are when he's in, between King Ghidorah, Victor Vaughn, and the Doom character universe. Those are my favorite Doom tracks, right? And then I love, at the same time, I love I love Danger Doom, right? When he's in the Cartoon Network universe, right?
Love that.
I don't necessarily know how many of them are his own actual, where he's from, his lived experience. It's hard to tell after the Victor Vaughn project, you know what I mean? So for me, that's not necessarily the definition of where I live when it comes from my favorites personally. But at the core of hip hop is, it ain't where you're from, is where you're at. It's telling your own story. And maybe your story is through the lens of, a supervillain. Maybe your story is through the lens of one of the 9 that Cool Keith was rapping through. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's what it is. But I do think being able to connect with whatever story you're telling is crucial. And having people be able to identify and connect with it is crucial. And so, in that regard, I think the most common way to do that is by having people that can relate to the experiences that they're having too. And by talking about where you're from, what your life is like, what your hood is like, what your coast is like, you're able to connect with a lot of people at the same time, to where they don't have to try to understand what you're saying or have to flip them into a place where they're just not thinking on a normal basis. Because sometimes people try to do too much. You try to do too much, and then no one grasps it. I got this.
No one's connecting to it
all the time. I got this one rapper that calls me all the time, and he asked me about whether I understand his bars, right? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But he's like, see, most people don't get that, and he's like fighting the wave of people maybe not understanding his bars. Well, that is a problem with rapping sometimes. If you are making stuff people can't understand, How can you be mad at them?
Yeah.
Not liking it.
Yo, Hakeem from Channel Live came on my podcast and he said KRS-One, conscious rapper, intellectual rapper, the teacher, all that, told Hakeem and his partner, you got to dumb it down. You got to talk to people like they're at a 5th grade level. You got to calm down with the concepts. Not censorship, like you can't say X, but like you have to say it in a more simple way so that the average person can understand. Because if you're too complicated, you're over people's heads. And that's definitely what Mickey Fax was talking about. It might be nice to be like the guy who goes over everybody's head, and the cypher MCs are like, yo, you're the shit. But like, if you're not communicating with people, you're not doing anything. So you have to at least be calm down to the level that you are communicating with people.
Right. Or you're going to have to, create a space where they can grow with you. Right. Or mix it up. Right. I mean, Lupe is a great example of that too. I know he keeps coming back to this, but he does have Dumb It Down. He put out Dumb It Down as a single. Okay. That was one of the earliest.
Never liked that song though.
That's okay.
I never liked that Dumb It Down song, but yeah, he did have that song.
But you understand the value of the concept, of the gesture.
He put it out as a single. Now, that came out as a single right next to Superstar, right? It came out right next to Paris, Tokyo. Very linear storytelling, regular, inspirational, stadium ready, get up and have a great day type songs. But to live in that, dense, pulling layers out space, to live there, that's a marginalized community that you're going to find that loves you the most, which
he went to later in his career.
Right. But, you're not going to hit mass appeal if people got to, study your song. People listen to music to get away from what their day-to-day lives are like.
I think it depends on what you want to be as an artist, though. Like, I want to ask you a question. One, I want to ask you a question about that, but we also got some live chats that I don't want to miss because they be getting mad when we don't talk about them. So Jay-Z is a one-trick pony artist, even close. Don't say that. I don't think we're taking Jay-Z slander. We just said that Kendrick had more versatility, but you can't say Jay-Z is a one-trick pony. What's up, Justin? Right. Are there any skips in Kendrick's catalog? Does he have fewer than the other contenders for GOAT?
Skips is songs or album?
In his catalog albums, I would say.
I don't know if he has enough albums to worry about skipping. He's really depending on how you look at, was it 6? Depending on how you look at Untitled Unmastered. But from a song standpoint, absolutely. No artist is above a skip. Everybody gonna give you some of them.
Yes, and a skip for you may not be one for me or vice versa. So the whole notion of like everybody skipped X song, not necessarily. There are some people who liked it. So I mean, like, what does it mean if it's a skip to me and not to you?
Yeah.
Like I skip We Cry Together and Auntie Diaries pretty much every time. Almost.
Every time.
If Meet the Grams came on, I would press forward. That is a skip. I have listened to it. I don't want to go back there. It's an incredible record.
Right.
I heard it like 5 times, I think, in my life. Maybe not even. I might have only heard that song 3 to 4 times.
You know what I mean? You don't want to sit around and listen to it, but you love it. So I'm just saying, the notion of a skip, I feel like, is vastly overrated as a tool to discern any of this.
Facts.
I mean, Meet the Grams, it was in my top 5 Apple Music replay last year.
You was replaying that. You a crazy. You crazy
a lot.
You was a dark dude.
That's crazy. Like why are you listening to that shit over and over? Are you okay? Were you depressed?
It's like watching Halloween. Like there's some horror movies I could watch repeatedly, and I'm like, man, this is the best part. So the way Michael Myers slams his head on the countertop, I love this part. That's what it is.
That's crazy. Some people are feeling that Meet the Grams. They say they listen to it daily. If you listen to Meet the Grams daily, go check. No, that's crazy.
Nobody listens to Meet the Grams.
No,
daily.
That's crazy. Meet the Grams daily is crazy. But let me ask the question about.
Tired, but we don't sit around listening to it. We love it. You just don't listen to it.
You lied in your interview. You lied about it.
That's crazy. I want to ask a question about the personal life being a part. Do you feel like something that Lupe does and Doom does, where we talk about they could get into different characters and all that type of stuff, to be at that top spot, does the story have to be about yourself? Like, does the story have to be at, because every other rapper, it seems like they had that story and that narrative and they get to that top spot. These rappers that may be more technical, talk about different things like that, can they get to that overarching top spot without doing that?
Green, I think to make people love you, you do have to be talking about who you are, so that they can have someone to love. They're not going to love your technical ability. They're going to admire or love your brilliance, your intelligence, as well as your charisma, as well as the things that you've overcome, the things that you fought through, the things that you care about. They want to follow a leader, not a skill.
Well, I think the follow-up question would be, who's an example of someone who's made it to the top spot without doing that, right? Because Nas lives in third-person storytelling quite a bit, right? Under 3000, a lot of third-person storytelling. Now, I wouldn't say any of these things are exclusively third-person storytelling.
But you have a sense of, with Andre and Nas, you have a sense of who they are. They are not.
100%.
I think those are great examples of what I'm talking about, though, because they kind of are in the middle. It's like, I know who 50 Cent is. I know who Tupac is. I know who Eminem is. I don't know who Nas. When I think about how much I know about Eminem, I have no idea who Nas is. And we've had so much.
It's been very clear from the song that we did a whole deconstruction on and all the QB stuff.
No, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more dense, though. What I'm trying to say in the like, Eminem's daughter, his relationship with his mother, it's all there. It's not at the same level when it comes to Nas. And Nas will tell you a story from the perception of a gun and refine the story. That's all I'm trying to say. There's a little bit more of that stuff, so it's not the same.
Nas, Destiny comes up all the time in Nas's work, and he made an album with the photo of him in his ex-wife's dress. You know what I mean? He talked about losing her. He's talked about Nas's father is part of his cosmology. He's talked about his mother.
I didn't say it wasn't there at all. I was just talking about the levels of
it. And truthfully, it's a lot of late, especially when it comes to Life is Good. To me, that was like a shift for him. That was really the most personal I remember him being. Life is Good, right? Even on the song, was it the one with his pops off of us?
Bridging the Gap.
Yeah, Bridging the Gap. Like that was an outlier moment for Nas, right? And that's one of the reasons why Jay-Z's bars at Nas worked. Is it Black Girl lost her? Shorty owe you for ice? There was a real question about who he was, especially considering how he came in with Illmatic, and then he became a Mafia Don on the second album. We could talk about how great that album is. We could talk about how it was written, has aged awesomely, and has a cult following, all of this stuff that I think at this point supersedes Illmatic. But those are two different people on those first two projects.
You think it was written supersedes Illmatic? Wow.
Yeah, I was going to let that one go.
Wow.
Really? That's what we're doing right now?
Illmatic was a grounded album. He's Goodfellas on the next project.
The image point is totally correct, and we accept that. You said there is a group of people who think it was written as better than Illmatic.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, a lot of people. And I've run into that conversation quite a bit.
That's crazy.
People look at it as better than Illmatic and classic on its own. Now, that's a tough one for me personally, but I concede certain points of the time when I'm just fighting a wave. I just let certain things go. It's like, okay.
That one, I wouldn't have that conversation. Like, I'd have that conversation with Toure about how crazy someone who thinks that.
Otter Donnelly right there in the comment section said it was written as greater than Illmatic. It's right here. We got one right now.
Yeah, that's
in art. It's happening, right? It's all happening right now.
It's all happening.
Really?
Oh, by the way, 784 votes Kendrick over Jay-Z.
I mean, we got a Kendrick community. Wait,
we do have
This
It
nigga
makes
Fantanimos Fanto said, I listened to Meet the Grams in Dark Mausoleums. What is wrong with you?
that
M.
Fantano said
Mark
that.
said, I like the exercise of removing the main subject matter from an artist, then determining if their catalog stands without it. Jay minus money, Drake minus women, Dot minus authenticity. That's an interesting point, that if you remove the guy's number one subject, do they have another thing to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that experiment. And if you think about that with
Big for sure.
Drake, I mean Jay, it's that Change album, just like Life is Good.
Wait. You said Pac and Big for sure. I feel like Pac might run into some of the same challenges as Hove with that exercise. No, excuse me, Big might run into the same challenges as Hove.
Well, wait, you could only limit one. Big was talking about women, he was talking about street shit, and he was talking about rap supremacy, and he's also talking about
that's about it.
I think if you take away the street shit, barely with Big. Now we have a small sample size, but street shit.
You take away the street shit. Sure.
But he could also, I mean, that if you told him you can't talk about street shit, he could make a R. Kelly type Love You Down.
No, but you're talking about a hypothetical. The challenge is taking it away, then looking at the catalog that exists. So if you take away street shit and the street components, 90% of the bars are gone. and then you
still got a story to tell. Right. One of his greatest records ever.
He's got. I mean, I wonder where you put Juicy. I guess Juicy is an example.
I don't think Juicy's a street shit. Yeah.
No, that's a come up record. That's a come up how I came up. He's not like Warning is the street shit record you're talking about.
I mean, Juicy's a come up record. It's a come up record. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I'll put that in.
He's got, I don't want to stick on this point too long. I don't want to take over that.
Yeah.
Interesting thing. They said
no, it's an interesting question. I mean, Jamo says Murs is the greatest storyteller after Nas. Debate your mom. I'm not debating my mother on any of these points. She doesn't know anything about any of this. That would be a waste of time. But thank you for the suggestion. Long-winded short story. Peace to each of you vets. Thank you for your work. Please give us your favorite Jay quotable and Kendrick quotable love. Oh, God.
My favorite Jay quotable is, I was just fucking them girls. I was going to get right back. That's my favorite one of all time.
That's definitely a good one.
That's a great one.
That's when he really became like a person to me. At that point in my life, I was like, now this is some Jay I can relate to.
That's hilarious. That's what you can relate to. I can't even think of a Jay quotable that. Torre, you're the Jay-Z guy.
Are you hating on Jay-Z a little bit?
No, it's different. I wasn't hating on him, but for me,
not you. That was a Green question, because the respect seems to be coming a little slow from Green's court. Are you hating on Jay a little bit?
Jay-Z used to be like my top favorite rapper, so no, there's too many Jay-Z quotables. There's the whole scheme about like I jack, I rob, you know what I'm saying? That whole Jackie Robinson scheme that I love. Mm-hmm. Then there's then the quote, I'm like Che Guevara with bling on, I'm complex. Oof. I love how crazy of a statement that is, because it's like understanding the existence of capitalism, knowing who Che Guevara is, taking a quote from somebody questioning him because he was in some type of interview and he had his chain on and a Che Guevara shirt because Che Guevara shirts were hot at the time. And a lady said Che Guevara would have a problem with like who you are, and then he took that concept and put it in the rhyme. I thought that's beautiful. There's just too many. Jay-Z has a lot of quotables, so that's why it's hard for me to pick one. Not so much that I am 3,000% not a Jay-Z hater. I love Jay-Z.
All right,
just not as much as you. You love Jay-Z too much. That's my problem with you. You hate Drake too much. You hate Drake too much, and you love Jay-Z too much.
I don't think anybody can do any of those things. You can't love Jay-Z too much, and you can't hate Drake enough. Get on my level. Hard to think of one Jay to just say. I mean, there's so many that used to be just part of my day. I think about finish your breakfast all the time, which is like just a Jay-Z ism. Just finish what you're supposed to do. Like that's what they say if you miss a layup, like finish your breakfast, like just do the things you're supposed to do. But I also think about like, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, which goes back
that's
to what you were
crazy.
saying about Drake as a friggin' Drake is a corporation, Jay-Z is a corporation. You have to function differently. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, there's so many. There's so, you know what I think about? I think about Jay when he would do his concerts. He's generally kind of crappy on stage, but at the end, he would just like turn up the house lights and point to people in the crowd and be like, "Yo, I see you in section 238, row GG in the yellow. I wouldn't award that." Every single shirt call on somebody be like, "Yeah, I see you with the big t-shirt on. That's dope. That's dope. I got that t-shirt. You in the green, I wouldn't award that." He say that every fucking it's not even like a game. It's just like he's just keeping it real. And like I'm like, wow, you just told somebody who paid half their weekly salary or whatever the fuck to come to your show. I wouldn't award what you wore, but good luck with that, homie. Like,
I mean, Hope is one of the most quotable rappers ever, probably. You know what I mean? You look at one of my favorite thing about Jay-Z shows. Again, I don't necessarily think they're the most dynamic shows, but it's impressive because he spends so much time. There was a point in time where his shows, he was spending what I felt like most of the show holding a microphone to the audience so that they could rap his songs. That is a flex all on its own. I love that.
I just always felt like it was, I'm going to stand here with visuals that are a specific visualization of what I said rather than an evocation of a space. Like if you showed me like Marcy while you're talking about Marcy, then at least I'm being taken into an experience. That's what Jay would do. That's what Nas would do. That's what Kanye would do. That's what Tyler would do. Jay will show you the Marcy Project sign, which is like the most obvious visual. Every show I'm like, he got me again. I said I wasn't going to go to another Jay-Z show, and then he got me again. And
am I the only one that enjoyed the Jay-Z show when I saw it?
I'm like, he's always like back for more cash. And somebody told me about the Watch the Throne tour, which Kanye was like, so we're going to do this and this and this and this. And Jay-Z was like, no, we are not. We're going to make some money. We're going to spend as little as possible, do as little as possible, and rake in this cash. That's what we're going to do. And that's the difference between them. And Kanye will do a show, and it's amazing. And remember, all the Kanye concerts I've been to have been like, okay, that was some shit. And Jay-Z shows are generally boring.
Let's get some super chats in here. Over here hating on your boy. That's crazy. This guy dropped like 5 super chats, so I'm just gonna read them all. Great storyteller is Razcast, masterful narrator. Razcast is underrated. Hell yeah, great storyteller. Rarely mentioned Mr. Liv, Schizo, Snowfall storytelling, and Franklin Saint storytelling on Dr. Octagon, Cool Keith, and Dr. Doom. He just wanted to get all those out there, so you got him.
Yo,
say it again.
Franklin Saint. Did you just pronounce Skyzoo Schizo? Is that who you're talking about? Skyzoo?
Oh, Skyzoo. My bad. I thought it was because there's also Schizo. So I thought he was putting Schizo's also a rapper.
Franklin Saint. I was like, wait, who? No, but I'm like, oh, that's got to be Skyzoo. You're talking about Franklin Saint.
Yeah.
That was a crazy problem.
This guy. Now I'm reading through a list. Jay-Z said, "Jigga the shit," even when he rhymes in third person.
I love that.
Facts.
Come on.
As a white South African, I'm interested and willing so hard to learn about the culture from following the journey with Kendrick. He is my favorite artist. That's interesting.
I used to move snowflakes by the OZ. I guess even back then you could call me the CEO of the ROC.
First of all, just quotables that have allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove. That's not even like a bar, but it's a bar. Like people, I used to just think about that going into places. Like PSA is one of my favorite songs ever made. PSA is crazy. So
yo,
that's
I'm from the murder capital where we murder for capital.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a great one. One of my favorites B-sides is shit was all good just a week ago.
I say that all the time.
I found
You know what I say all the time? Grand opening, grand closing.
Right. That's
God
amazing.
damn, you man, ho, crack the can open again.
The last thing that I want to talk about before we peace out, I want us to talk about your perception on the Cardi album. Did you listen to it? Did you only listen to Kendrick's parts? Like, what'd you think?
Keep it real.
I'll say this as a non-Cardi fan, this is my favorite Cardi project, without question. You know, I don't listen to Cardi for lyrics. I actually talked about this in the chart report I shot earlier today. I don't listen to Cardi for bars. I feel like that would be disingenuous to what he's offering. You know, I listen to Cardi for the energy, for the vibes, and I'm not a rage rap fan. Right? I think rap does really well in festivals, outside, you know, frat parties. You know, I think of rage rap over there. I don't think about rage rap just when I'm going through life. But this project, really, one, it's like two projects. It's 30 tracks. Two, the energy held me down 2 days in a row in the gym. 2 days in a row in the gym. And there's more melodic moments on there than I expected from Cardi. You know, the Uzi Vert track, that track was like, that. I actually stopped it in the middle to start it over again. I was like, wait a minute, let me see what I'm hearing there real quick. I like this little Uzi Vert thing. And so in that regard, it was more diverse sonically than I expected. I can't quote it. I don't know how many quotables there really are. I mean, there's a lot of chanting stuff in there. But for what rage rap is and where where Playboy Cardi tends to live, this is the most enjoyable experience I've had listening to it.
Okay. That's I feel like that's the response from most non-Cardi fans is that it's like, oh, he had Kendrick on here and then the energy's there, because this is also a little bit more palatable because it's like almost paying homage to the Atlanta sound, right? The whole album kind of does that from sound to sound. But for me I'm actually Cardi fan, this wasn't it for me. Like as a whole project, it's not it for me, because what I like from him, he didn't go in on. And some of it feels a little bit just like, let me just throw these things out. There's 30 songs, man, and it's like it's 30 of them, brother.
You're so mad at that. Why don't you just not listen to the songs you don't like? Why would that be a criticism at all?
I can listen to the songs that I like, and I made my own album, and I'll enjoy it. But that doesn't make the album. Yeah. I'm not going to go now and say no, but the album's great. I don't discredit these songs because there's other songs that suck, but I discredit the entire a project because there's a lot that sucks. What you gave me sucked. Let me clean it up. Like you gave me something that sucks, and then I make it better for myself, and they're gonna be like, what you gave me was great. No. So I don't like to rate things, but as a review of an album, the theme, the process, all this type of stuff, I'm going to say it's my least favorite album of his. The first two are insane. The third one's good. This one, my least favorite, but I still enjoy 8 songs. Thank you for those 8 songs. I love them. Thank you. But that's me. We can go in on I Am Music later. But thank you so much for coming through.
Hey, Justin, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Rap
Latte. We'll have you backstage. You still writing rhymes?
I'm not. I haven't written rhymes in a long time. Man. So, but you know what I mean? Maybe I will. You know, maybe I'll be inspired by this Cardi album. See if I can pull a Cardi.
When you were writing, were you writing to silence or were you writing to beats?